So we're in our fourth class of our Living Healthy Exercise and Nutrition Workshop series. And today I'm going to be talking about eating to fuel your body and not your emotions. Everyone deals with a variety of emotions. It's part of the human experience. And everyone faces stress, but the amount and the reasons vary. Stress and emotions can present themselves in a number of ways, and sometimes they can be difficult to recognize. Both are difficult to deal with. They can be uncomfortable, especially when we are in denial of our emotions or we feel guilty for having the feelings that we have. A common reaction to both stress and emotions is eating. And take us back to a quote that Joanne shared with us last week. Our attitudes and actions related to food affect both our physical and our spiritual well-being. Today I'm going to give you some information that can help you to create healthy attitudes and actions toward food. So, what is emotional eating? Emotional eating is simply eating when you are not physically hungry. So is there a difference between physical and emotional hunger? Yes, but emotional hunger can often present itself as physical hunger. But there are some clues that can help you to differentiate between the two. Emotional hunger comes on suddenly, and it can feel overwhelming and urgent. Physical hunger comes on more gradually, and the urge to eat does not demand instant gratification. Emotional hunger craves specific comfort foods. When eating in response to physical hunger, almost anything sounds good, including healthy stuff like vegetables. But emotional hunger craves a rush from sweet, salty, and fatty foods. Emotional hunger can lead to mindless eating. Before you know it, you've consumed an entire bag of chips or eaten a whole pint of ice cream without even realizing it. And consequently, you probably didn't even get to enjoy it either. When eating in response to physical hunger, you're generally more aware. Physical hunger is not satisfied when your stomach is full. You feel like you want more and more until you're uncomfortably stuffed. Physical hunger does not need to be stuffed. It is satisfied when your stomach is comfortably full. Emotional hunger is not located in the stomach. Instead of a hunger pang in the belly, emotional hunger is felt as a craving that you can't get out of your head. Emotional hunger focuses on specific textures, flavors, and smells. Emotional hunger can lead to guilt, shame, and regret. When eating to satisfy physical hunger, it's unlikely that you'll feel guilty because you're simply eating to fuel your body. If you feel guilty after you eat, it's probably because you know that deep down you are not eating for nutritional reasons. Now, maybe you recognize some of those clues in your own behavior. But sometimes it's hard to recognize those things until after the fact. So there's a simple test that you can do. When you find yourself walking toward the pantry, the fridge, or opening up your snack drawer at work, ask yourself, am I hungry? If the answer is yes, remember that emotional hunger can be sneaky and it can present itself as physical hunger. So a second question may be in order. Would I eat broccoli right now? Now, if you would never eat broccoli under any circumstance, replace broccoli with an alternative vegetable. Do you have one in your mind? Okay. Let's ask the question again. Would I eat eggplant right now? If the answer is yes, there's a good chance you're physically hungry, and it's probably a good idea that you eat something. But if the answer is no, then you're probably emotionally hungry. And if you answered no to that first question, am I hungry? You're probably in the same space. You're hungry for something other than food, whether it's distraction, stress relief, or an escape. Now, the direction that you take next can really be where you start to create that healthier relationship with food. So some more questions can be helpful. If I'm not hungry, then what am I trying to feed? Is it stress? Is it boredom? Or is it an emotion like anger, sadness, happiness, loneliness, dissatisfaction? And what can I do about it? Or is there a solution? The answer might be different for each situation and each person. And why don't I do anything about it? Now that's the kicker. When we're emotionally eating, we're choosing to be powerless by putting ourselves in a food trance. Our mind turns off, and whatever was bothering us is no longer on our mind. We're just trying to fill the void with food. Now, you may have all of the knowledge and education in the world around nutrition and food, but until we can learn to face the stuff in our lives, we'll continue to stuff our face. Emotional triggers can come from all directions, and it can be helpful to identify what yours are when you've decided that you're emotionally hungry. So what situations, places, and feelings cause you to gravitate toward food for comfort? Some triggers might be stress. When stress is chronic, as it often is in our fast-paced, overscheduled lives, it raises the levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Cortisol can trigger cravings for sugary, salty, and high-fat foods, those that give us that instant gratification. The more uncontrolled stress you have in your life, the more likely it is that you're going to turn to food for emotional relief. Avoiding emotions is another trigger. Eating is a way to temporarily silence those uncomfortable emotions like fear, anger, dissatisfaction, loneliness, depression, anxiety. By numbing ourselves with food, we are avoiding facing those uncomfortable feelings. But remember, like I said, until you can face the stuff in your life, you'll continue to stuff your face. This is a very common trigger: procrastination and boredom. Have you ever found yourself snacking between meetings, while you're driving in the car, getting up at a commercial break to grab a treat, or looking for something sweet after you've just had dinner? Food is a way to occupy our mouth and our time. The next trigger I'll talk about are childhood habits. Think back to your memories of food. Were you rewarded with good behavior, ice cream, candy? Were you taken out for pizza if you had a good report card? Or were you given a treat when you were feeling sad? These emotionally based childhood habits can transfer into adulthood. Or maybe your eating is driven by nostalgia. Wonderful memories of baking and eating cookies with mom on a Sunday afternoon, or sitting on the porch on a hot summer night enjoying a snow cone with dad. Social influences will also trigger those emotional eating. So getting together for a meal can help you maintain and build your relationships, can also maybe help to relieve stress, but it can cause us to overeat. We often eat past our full point when around people because they're eating or because the food is just there in front of us. Some people choose to eat in social situations due to nervousness. To continue a healthy relationship with ourselves and food, it's important to find other ways to feed our feelings. If you can't learn to manage your emotions, including stress, in ways that don't involve food, you'll have a hard time controlling your eating habits for a very long time. That's another reason why diets don't work. While some diets offer sound nutritional advice, they don't take into account emotions hijacking the process and demanding instant gratification from food. So we need to find alternatives to this. It's not enough to just understand emotional eating or to even understand your own triggers. So let's move to some alternatives. Pause when you feel that craving coming on, or you find yourself mindlessly walking to the fridge or the pantry. And don't tell yourself that you can't eat, because if you remember, rebellion likes to take over those restrictive behaviors. So just tell yourself, I'm going to pause for a minute and evaluate. Go back to the question, am I hungry? If the answer is an honest yes, I would eat broccoli right now, then go ahead and portion out a snack for yourself. But if the answer is no, ask yourself, what am I trying to feed? The answers may not present themselves immediately, and it may take some work to start to recognize them. But now would be a good time to turn to an alternatives eating list. Okay? So you all have one with you. If you don't have a pen, you can put some down in your phone or something like that. But before you do, I want you to know that your list is going to be as unique as you are. And you may have multiple lists that address different emotions. But I highly suggest that the first thing on every list is drink a glass of water. Our bodies often confuse hunger for thirst, and living in a desert, a lot of us are constantly, unconsciously dehydrated. So another glass of water won't do us any harm. So numbers 2 through 10 on your list are going to either be a distraction when you're facing boredom, or they're going to address whatever need you are trying to feed. For example, if you feel lonely or depressed, call someone that makes you happy, play with your children or a pet. If you're feeling anxious, expend nervous energy. Dance to your favorite song, go for a brisk walk, or find another physical activity. If you're bored or procrastinating, find an activity that you like to do or something productive. So maybe that's reading a good book, organizing a cupboard, or completing a hobby, knitting, woodworking, or playing an instrument. So before you write down your list, I want you to know that these items don't have to take a long time. They should really maybe take about 10 minutes to accomplish. And they should also be things that you like doing and you will actually do. If you fill your list with things that bore you or chores, you're probably going to end up at square one. Okay, I'm going to give you just 2 minutes to come up with just maybe 2 or 3 ideas so that when you walk out of this room, you have a viable resource to turn to. So go ahead and take a minute to write down a few alternatives to eating. hope everyone has at least one thing down on their list. And so when you come to this point, you pull out your list, complete your activity, and then reevaluate your hunger. If you still find that you're gravitating toward food, move to the next item on your list. Now, my next suggestion for avoiding emotional eating is learning to practice mindfulness. So mindful eating is a practice that brings awareness toward your eating habits and allows you to pause between your triggers and your actions. So the awarenesses that this will bring include awareness around your physical and emotional cues, awareness around your non-hunger triggers, awareness around how you buy, prepare, and eat your food, and awareness around making food choices that you both enjoy and are nourishing, and also helping you to learn to meet your emotional needs in other ways than eating. So we're going to pause here again, because I want to take you through a mindful eating practice. So if you're watching the recording, pause now and find something small to eat, maybe a raisin or a berry, or in our case, we're going to go for a piece of dark chocolate. So to start, we'll be engaging in this practice to find the pleasure in this food. We'll be moving very slowly and deliberately, so make sure you listen for my cues. I want you to find a comfortable seat. I suggest uncrossing your legs and your arms so that you can have a little more oxygen reach your brain. And then if you have been setting your chocolate aside so it didn't melt, go ahead and put it in the palm of your hand. I want you to look at this item as if you've never seen it before. Explore the shape, the color, the weight, and the size of it. Now gently open just one corner of the chocolate so that you can still hold it in your hand without it melting. And again, explore the surface of the chocolate. Notice the edges. Pay attention to how the light reflects off of it. Let your vision have a feast. Now, if you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? Or this is so silly, recognize those thoughts as random thoughts and return your awareness without any judgment back to viewing the chocolate. Use a childlike curiosity, like you've never seen it before. Now smell the chocolate, gently place it underneath your nose, and with each in-breath, notice the aroma that might be there. Maybe you notice your mouth watering at this point. Now gently move the chocolate into place. You notice how your arm effortlessly moves to the right spot, right? What's going on inside your mouth right now? Now gently take a bite of the chocolate and allow it to rest in your mouth without chewing it. Notice how the chocolate is received. Can you taste anything yet? Can you feel the chocolate starting to gently melt on your tongue? Now very consciously begin to chew the chocolate slowly, noticing the saliva in the mouth and how the consistency of the chocolate changes. What are the textures, flavors, even the thoughts that are coming up right now? Is there anything new that maybe you've never noticed before? Now, before you swallow, notice if you can determine the intent to swallow before you actually do. And finally, follow that sensation of swallowing all the way down to the stomach and see if you can notice that you are now one bite of chocolate fuller. What do you taste now? What is your tongue doing? Again, are you wanting to take another bite of the chocolate? Engage with that childlike curiosity and feel free to finish your piece of chocolate. Okay, now I know it can seem really off-putting to eat every bite of food in this manner. And truly, if I did that, I would still be finishing dinner from last night if I took every forkful with that much attention and intention. But I hope that the value of this practice is not lost on you. Eating just the first bite of each meal in this manner can help you connect to the textures, flavors, and nuances of each food. You may find that you enjoy certain foods, dark chocolate, more than you thought you did. And you may notice that the foods that you eat by the handful, like chips and popcorn and candy, are foods that you actually don't enjoy as much as you thought. So this is not the only way to incorporate mindful eating into your day. So I'm going to go over a few tips on how you can do that. You may recognize some of them as Joanne went over them last week. But the first is to begin with your shopping list. Be aware of the health value of each item you add to your list. And stick to your list. Can help you to avoid that impulse buying. Fill your cart from mostly the produce section and avoid those center aisles. My personal rule for grocery shopping is don't go to the store when you're hungry. The list will go out the window and everything ends up in your cart. Second is honor your hunger. If you skip meals, you may be so eager to get something in your stomach that your first priority becomes to fill the void instead of enjoying your food. Start with small portions. Choose to eat off of a salad plate instead of a dinner plate. And remember that handy guide that Joanne shared with us last week. Appreciate your food. Before digging in, take a few minutes to contemplate everything and everyone that it took to bring your meal to the table. Express your gratitude for having delicious, healthy food to eat and for the people that you get to share it with. Bring all of your senses to the meal. Think back to just a few seconds ago when we did that mindful eating practice. Can you take the first bite of your meal in that manner? When cooking, serving, and eating your food, pay attention to the colors, the textures, the aromas, and even the sounds of different foods. Maybe when you're chewing, see if you can discern all of the ingredients that are in the meal, especially the seasonings. Take small bites. It is much easier to taste your food when your mouth is not completely full. Chew thoroughly. Chew well enough that you can taste the essence of the food. This will actually take a longer time than you're used to. But you may be surprised at all of the different flavors that are released. Eat slowly. If you follow the previous tip on chewing thoroughly, you won't inhale your food. By eating slowly, you're able to recognize your body's satiety signals a little more clearly. Try the fork trick. Take a bite of food, put down the fork, taste, chew the food that is in your mouth, swallow, and then pick up the fork again. The key to this trick is letting go of the fork, right? That's going to allow you to remember to eat slowly, to enjoy your food, and to be able to converse with the people at the table. By truly noticing what we eat and drink, we can cultivate gratitude for the food we have. This gives us a sense of well-being and peace when we no longer need to use food to fix our problems. Now, the holidays are upon us, and with this wonderful time of year comes a plethora of opportunities to put these tips into practice. You have heard a lot of information around nutritional well-being over the last few weeks. Maybe there is one thing that you can choose to apply in your life this holiday season. Remember to start small.